And if the judges would please introduce themselves.
Hi, welcome, West Virginia team. I'm starting to say that in the beginning now, so I know I have the right team written down on my paper. So welcome, correct me if I'm wrong. I am Michael DePiero. I work with the Florida Department of Education in beautiful, sunny Tallahassee, Florida. You can see our state capitol behind me. It's beautiful. And I'm going to pass it on to Miriam to introduce herself.
Hello, I'm so honored to be with you. My name is Miriam Amarsadeghi. I participated in We the People the first year it was offered on the bicentennial of the US Constitution, a very long time ago. I serve on the board of the Center for Civic Education, and I have spent a large part of my career focused on providing civic education opportunities to people living in the Middle East, and in particular, Iran, where I'm originally from.
Muted, Tandy.
And good afternoon. My name is, just checking there. My name is Tandy McConnell, and I'm honored to be here with you. I spent about 20 years of my professional life as a professor of history at Columbia College in South Carolina. Then a few years ago, I decided to do something really interesting, and I became a high school history teacher. However, I grew up in Kentucky, so I've driven through West Virginia quite a few times, but I don't think I've spent enough time there. What part of West Virginia are you guys from?
Clay County, West Virginia.
Where's Clay County?
We're about 45 minutes south of Charleston.
Okay, so I kind of know where that is. Well, great, and best of luck. And I'll stop talking now.
My name is Ivy Taylor. I'm a junior at Clay County High School.
My name is Monty Hokum. I'm a junior at Clay County High School.
My name is Serena Neal. I'm a junior at Clay County High School, and our teacher is Mr. Philip Dobbins, and our coach is Mr. Mike Mullins.
Now I'm muted. So I am now unmuted. I apologize for that. Now that we got to know each other a little bit, I'm going to get us started with the formal part of this process. We are interested in the philosophical and historical foundations of the American political system. Our question is question 2. Parliament passed the Habeas Corpus Act of 1679. What is habeas corpus, and to what extent, if any, is it essential to the principle of limited government? How has the writ of habeas corpus evolved in the United States? Under what circumstances, if any, might the writ of habeas corpus place an unreasonable burden on the government? You may begin.
Habeas corpus is a writ requiring a person under arrest to be brought before a judge or into a court, especially to secure the person's release unless lawful grounds are shown for their detention. The literal meaning of habeas corpus is "you shall have the body." That is, the judge must have the person charged with a crime brought into the courtroom to hear what he's been charged with. This prevents the government from detaining people without reason, and thus prevents the government from detaining people just because they challenge their authority. It also protects people from being detained indefinitely, as they can request for the court to order their custodian to bring them forth. If this custodian, usually a warden, is found to be acting beyond their authority, the prisoner must be released. On these grounds, it is the belief of this panel that habeas corpus is essential to the principle of limited government, as it prevents opponents from being arrested as a form of suppression.
Habeas corpus is a civil liberty that requires any citizen to be given a hearing before judicial court before he or she is detained. This protects any citizen from unlawful detention and illegal imprisonment. It demands that every detention must be examined in a court of law to ascertain its legality. Habeas corpus first originated back in 1215 through the 39th clause of the Magna Carta signed by King John, which provided, "No man shall be arrested or imprisoned except by the lawful judgment of his peers and by the law of the land." In the U.S., the Habeas Corpus Act was assented into law in 1679, and at its beginning was mainly intended to make the state bring a suspect to court to respond to a pending trial. Gradually, it became a law for protection of persons against illegal imprisonment by the authorities. What started as a weapon for the state developed to a civil liberty for all citizens. At its beginning, habeas corpus was only granted to nobles. Now, due to a 2004 court case, Roswell versus Bush, habeas corpus is available to all citizens of the U.S.
In 1861, President Abraham Lincoln attempted to suspend the writ of habeas corpus in order to allow for the arrest of John Merryman. Merryman was attempting to hinder the movement of Union troops, so he was apprehended and held at Fort McHenry. The Supreme Court ruled that Lincoln did not have the power to suspend habeas corpus. Lincoln didn't respond, appeal, or order the release of Merryman. Lincoln was defiant, however, during his July 4th speech, in which he stated that he needed to suspend the rules to put down the rebellion in the South. President George W. Bush signed the Military Commission Act of 2006, which granted the President of the United States almost unlimited authority in establishing and conducting military commissions to try persons held by the U.S. and considered to be unlawful enemy combatants in the global war on terrorism. In addition, the Act suspends the right of these unlawful enemy combatants to present or to have presented in their behalf writs of habeas corpus. In Boumediene versus Bush, this act was declared an unconstitutional suspension of the writ of habeas corpus guaranteed in the Constitution.
Habeas corpus protects American citizens from being withheld by authority without being told what crime they have committed. This can place our government in some controversial conflicts. For example, during World War II, 120,000 Japanese American citizens were held in internment camps, being told why they were being held for being 1/16 Japanese. During this time, Japanese communities were considered an immediate threat to the security of the United States. Though unconstitutional under Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution, which prohibits a suspension of habeas corpus except during times of invasion and rebellion, the Supreme Court upheld the decision to continue the internment camps in the case Korematsu versus the United States.
Okay. I just want to make sure we are all set. We are ready to begin with the questioning. I'm going to defer to my colleagues to get us started. Miriam or Tandy?
Yeah. So these protections that exist for us here in the United States of America, do you think that overall they make us a stronger country, or are they sometimes too burdensome? For example, on the world stage, compare us to a country like China, our chief adversary, where these protections, these rights don't exist. When we're in competition with these other countries, do we suffer or do we gain because of these freedoms?
So I don't think it necessarily makes us stronger, but maybe more fair because of the habeas corpus and the other amendments such as speedy trial and right to an attorney. I feel like it's more fair, especially to people who are burdened with poverty and may not be able to afford an attorney to represent them. I feel like it makes it fairer for the citizens of the United States.
I'm gonna have to disagree with Ivy just a little bit. It can benefit us to a certain extent, but for example, after 9/11, multiple little military bases and prison camps popped up in other foreign countries that were owned by the U.S. And there's a big debate whether the Constitution follows the flag. So would habeas corpus follow to any military base? And would those people being withheld in those bases have the right to habeas corpus? I think that can put the U.S. in some tricky situations and maybe cause a little bit of conflict internally.
Yeah, I do entirely think that our rights to habeas corpus and the freedoms given to our people and protections from the government make us stronger. I believe that allowing our people to be free and the freedom that the United States is known for having, one of the things this country is built around, I do believe that this makes us stronger as it allows citizens to become more educated. It allows the citizens to hold more power, new ideals get into the government. One of the key issues with China, and a lot of people like to bring up with China, is the inability for people to speak out. And when you cannot speak out against your government and when you cannot develop new ideas, your country will never progress. Your country cannot go on and go forward in the world. So I believe the ability of American citizens to be able to question their government and be able to actually fight back against their government with acts such as habeas corpus, I believe this allows the American people to take some power into their own hands. And while it may seem like it's weakening the government is made up of the American people. So I believe it's making us stronger.
Given the complexity of habeas corpus and the suspension of habeas corpus, would we be better off just saying habeas corpus will not be suspended with no exceptions? That's simply that the United States is the country that where no matter what the circumstances, if you're arrested, you will always be brought before a judge within the next 24 hours, period, end of story. Would that be a better idea for us?
You can only suspend habeas corpus during invasion and times of rebellion, and I believe it should be that way. I don't think it should be written that 100% of the time habeas corpus is enacted, because that kind of benefits our country. Again, back to 9/11, during that time of invasion, they could withhold, if there was a survivor, they could withhold them and question them, and pretty much have no rules to what they can do to that person.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Serena here, and going a little bit further with it, I'm gonna say it might even be helpful to expand our ability to suspend habeas corpus in order to protect our allies. As of right now, Congress is the only one who can suspend habeas corpus, like she said, in acts of rebellion or threats to the public safety. But I believe that with the modern era of allies and communication and how much we like to build off of these other countries and build relationships, I think it's important to be able to protect our allies. And if we can't protect our allies because we're being held back by some paper limitations, I believe it could make us appear weaker and it could weaken our bonds with our allies. So I believe that it may be even helpful to extend our ability to suspend habeas corpus.
All right, thank you. So looking at a modern context of habeas corpus, and I want to look at, as you said, suspending it. Can you give some examples of when it may be acceptable to suspend habeas corpus in a modern context? You could use how New York City, New York suspended habeas corpus in the wake of Black Lives Matter protests or riots or whatever you want to call them. And then in January 6th with the protests or riots or whatever you want to call that, habeas corpus was not suspended. So can you talk me through that a little bit?
I think they had every right to suspend it during the Black Lives Matter movement, and I think it should have been suspended during the January 6th riots. That was not our best day in American history. I believe that was an embarrassment and made the U.S. look weak because we didn't suspend that, because we showed mercy on the people who broke into our Capitol and really caused a lot of damage and caused an uproar and divided our country even more.
Yeah, I'm going to use Guantanamo Bay as an example here, where we like to hold our terrorists. And I mentioned a court case earlier, Boumediene versus Bush, in which he took Bush to court, and the Supreme Court actually ruled in his favor. I believe that in this situation, when we know someone has committed a terrorist act or intends to commit a terrorist act, such as 9/11, I believe it would place such an unreasonable burden on the government to have to come up with something that may not be there. It may be hard to get because information it can just go away like that. And in another example, I'm going to use Korematsu versus the United States, in which the Supreme Court actually upheld the internment of the Japanese people. I believe that, to be honest, in all righteousness, all the right way to have done that would have been to flip those decisions. I believe that the Japanese people, they were interning about 120,000 of them or so just for being 1/16th Japanese. I believe that that was entirely wrong on the United States parts, and while they may have seen them as imminent threats, I believe that they did not have to go about it in such a violent way. And while I understand you have to do what you have to do to protect the American people, they're protecting the terrorists we're keeping at Guantanamo Bay in this situation based off these rulings. They're protecting them more than they were protecting our own Japanese American citizens.
If you don't have evidence that someone is a terrorist, how do you know that they're a terrorist and therefore should be denied the right of habeas corpus?
Well, with that, I'm going to go to the motto, really, of our justice system: innocent until proven guilty. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that someone is guilty of something if you want to convict them.
And yet,
Sometimes,
you seem to be arguing for holding people when you don't have because you don't really have evidence to bring to a judge. I'm just going to push you
right.
a little bit.
I'm gonna say that you could have a sort of unofficial confession. I'm gonna use that as an example. I'm gonna use this as a hypothetical here. Let's say someone said they were going to do something, but you didn't have. Oh, well, there's time, but you might not have the documented proof or whatever enough people to suspend them or to convict them of it, even though they've said it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we appreciate your enthusiasm for this. It does show that you have thought through a lot of these concepts, and hearing your introduction statement going from 1215 and then following through to modern times show you've done the breadth of research needed to put into that statement. And I also liked how you responded to the politically charged question, which is why I framed it around Black Lives Matter and the Capitol incident, because it's a range of perspectives on that, and you did a nice job of answering that without interjecting a whole lot of political bias. You really stuck to what is necessary to suspend habeas corpus. So appreciated, and I will let my colleagues fill in the rest.
I really enjoyed our conversation. You began about, you presented your thesis, your main ideas. You supported that with some really important examples and the dates and the events to prove your point. We could probably argue about some of these, but you set out your ideas and you supported them quite reasonably and fairly, and that is exactly what we're looking for. And that's so I think you did an outstanding job, and it was truly an honor to be here with you guys. This was fun.
I really enjoyed what you all had to say, your natural finesse, your willingness to just say what you think exactly about the questions, rather than to be too focused on things you've read or things that you came in with, but you were armed with the knowledge that you needed. I think you guys have a lot to be proud of. What's next for you guys? Where are you going to school?
I'm hoping to go somewhere for engineering or something of the sort, possibly WVU. Somewhere. I'm focused on money at the moment.
I'm very undecided. Like, my plans change every day.
Got it.
I'd like to be a labor and delivery nurse, but it'll all come down to money in the end.
In terms of financial aid?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it.
Tandy, what's your Kentucky college that's very good for that?
Have you looked at Berea College yet? My one recruiting event.
I've looked at it a little bit, but on my current ACT scores, I'm 2 points away on the composite score from being able to get accepted there. So I'll have to retake it and see if I can get accepted.
Retake it there, because they have a great nursing program.
Yeah, I'm trying.
And it's free.
Yeah, it certainly is. And they hit me up every month for to keep it free. You graduate for free, and then they start hitting you up for money every month after that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't use the word free. I would use the word at no cost. It's at no cost.
Nothing is exactly free.
Yeah. So, well, thank you all. Very enjoyable. And